Hello and welcome back to my channel, and today's video is a big Q&A video. So I asked you to submit your questions, had some questions on here, some on Instagram, and yeah, so I thought that I would answer them here. I'm very organised, typed them all out and printed them out so that I can read them off a little bit like a newsreader. Do this. But yeah, so I thought it would be a good way for you guys who are new to the channel to get to know me a bit better, but also just, yeah, to answer some of those questions that you've always wanted to ask. And I tell you what, some of you, you should be investigative journalists because you have gone in, straight in there for the personal information. But yeah, I'm going to answer every single one as honestly as I can. So I hope you'll enjoy this chatty video. So let's get going with question number one. So question number one, where are you from? So I'm actually from up north. So my parents live in a town near Manchester. That's where I grew up. That's where I was born. My parents are actually Geordie. So both my parents are Geordie. I have a sister and brother. You'll have seen my sister in my Birmingham vlog. And yeah, I grew up near Manchester for most of my life. And I moved down to Essex in 2004 for a job, and I just never left. And now I live here in Colchester in Essex. I think that question relates to my accent, because I think a few of you are always trying to work out what my accent is. I think my accent is a little bit weird because there's still a little bit of northern in there, but I have lived down south for so long now that I think it's kind of got a weird twang to it. But yeah. Question number two, how are you? Oh, that's a nice question. So I got asked this a few times, to be honest. So any of you that have followed me for a long time know that last year was not the easiest year, let's be honest. So I broke up with my partner in 2018, and last year had to go through a divorce and move house from the place that I loved, etc, etc. 2020 started off quite good. I felt quite positive, and then I had a bit of a crash. And I think that's why a couple of people have asked, how are you? Because February was not a great month for me. I really struggled quite a lot with my mood, with anxiety, which is something that I suffer from, and it got quite bad. And it did relate to the fact that I was dating. I had met somebody who I liked, and we had been on quite a few dates, and that actually caused me anxiety because I knew I liked them, and I was a little bit I think dating can be quite scary. It's scary before you meet up, and then when you meet up and you realise that you like somebody, then it's scary as well, because you're like, oh my god, for somebody like me who a relationship fell apart, you then start to panic that the next person that you meet, that it's all going to go wrong. And it did, and sadly he broke things off because it just wasn't quite right for him, which is such a shame because he was really nice. And it did hit me quite hard, and I did then stop dating. I'm not dating at the moment, just to have a little bit of a break from it, because actually I realised that although 2020 started and I felt quite positive, actually I wasn't in that good a place within myself. So I've been trying to sort of just be happy on my own and enjoy my life and improve my mood, so that eventually when I meet somebody, I'm just going to be in this really good place, and they will just be a nice addition to my life rather than me getting all stressed about everything. But yeah, that was a really long answer, wasn't it, to essentially, how are you? I'm good, thanks, yeah. But no, in all honesty, I do feel really happy at the moment. I definitely think that the weather is helping, the days are getting longer, it's just the sun's been out more, and I just think that always helps my mood so much. So yeah, I'm in quite a good place, guys, so thank you. Okay, question number three. What is your best and worst trait? Oh, God. Okay, let's start with worst. My worst, well, I have several, because let's be honest, everybody does. I would say number one is that I'm very, very messy. Very messy. I don't put my clothes away. They're mostly on the floor most of the time, or on a chair. I don't keep my house very tidy. However, on the flip side, I am quite house proud. So if people are coming, or I know somebody's coming around, I will clean this house within an inch of its life. But day to day, I am quite messy, yeah. I would say my other worst trait is I am such a procrastinator, like somebody who puts things off a lot. I don't tackle things straight away. I put them off and put them off. So yeah, I would say they're my worst traits. My best traits are, I think I'm quite funny. I do like to make people laugh. I think there's nothing better than hearing somebody laugh because you made them laugh, and that's why I enjoy making slightly silly videos over on Instagram. Obviously I'm quite creative, quite artistic in the sense that I like doing DIY. I can always think of cool ideas of how to do things. So yeah, I would say they are my best traits. Question number 4. What is your favourite Taylor Swift song? Now I think this comes from, I don't know if you've seen it, but over on my Instagram, when I got divorced, I made a musical extravaganza video to the song Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. I do actually really like Taylor Swift, and it comes from the fact that in my car I only have a CD player. Now I don't have a Bluetooth thing so I can play music, but for a long time all I had was a CD player, and essentially there was just one CD going round, which was Taylor Swift's album. And when I would be driving out of the village and I was going through this really difficult divorce and being afraid of having to move house and all these things, that song just always cheered me up, and that's why I made this sort of silly video to that song. So if you haven't watched it, it's over on my Instagram. It's in a highlight. Can't put it on here because obviously of the Taylor Swift song. And it's annoying, but it's just one of those things, copyright. But yeah, go and watch it. So obviously that is one of my favourite Taylor Swift songs. I like Bad Blood, such a good song. Trouble. Number 5, question number 5. How are you finding renting after being a homeowner? Do you find it frustrating? I'm enjoying it. I think it's got its pros and cons, obviously. One of the cons is that it's not yours. You can't just randomly do stuff. You have to ask permission before you can do anything. And I do get a bit jealous. I follow a lot of interiors accounts on Instagram, and like Emma and Simon, they're doing so much in their house, and I'm so jealous. And don't get me wrong, the landlord and landlady of this property are so chilled out, so cool, and they're really up for me doing things like, when I moved in, this fire surround wasn't here. It was an awful gas fire, and they were up for me having it removed and whatnot. So I could do so many things if I really wanted to, but there is a level at which you can't put too much money into a house that isn't yours, especially if you've got to leave stuff behind. Obviously I probably do more in this rented place than most people would in a rented property because I make content out of it. I make videos, I make DIY tutorials, I make room tours. So for me it's content, so therefore it's not a waste of money for me to put money into this property and do things, because I can show you guys what you can do. The only big thing is I really don't like the kitchen, and there's not much I can do with it because there's so much about it I don't like. But if I bought a house, I wouldn't have the money, I wouldn't have the capital to be doing big things like kitchen renovations anyway. And one of the bonuses of renting is, like, for example, when we had all these storms in the UK and people's fences were coming down and all of these kind of things, and like before Christmas I had a problem with the boiler. It's not my responsibility, it's theirs. You know, the boiler went kaput. They were the ones who had to buy a new boiler. So yes, okay, there are downsides, but there are also some upsides. And the biggest upside for me, and the reason why I chose to rent, is because I didn't want to be trapped again in a house that wouldn't sell. I was in the house in the village for a year and a half. That was frustrating for me, and I didn't want to end up in that situation again. So that's one of the reasons why I purposely didn't buy a house. I decided to just take a year to live in rented and work out where I wanted to base myself. So question number 6 is, how do you like your new village? Can you see yourself there long term? So I'm not actually in a village anymore. So I used to live in a village called Great Bentley, which is in Essex, and it has the 2nd biggest village green in the UK. And it was beautiful. But me and my ex, we moved there from Colchester. So we lived in Colchester before, and Colchester is where I have now come back to. So it's not a village, it's town. It's the oldest town in the UK, I think. And yeah, so I'm just back where I lived before, really, in a different area, and I love the new area that I live. In the short term, yeah, I'll stay here. A few people asked why I wouldn't move back up north, or people have asked in the past, back up north near my parents, but all my friends are down here in Essex, and obviously my job means I need to go to London, and it's much closer to London, so I don't think going back up to Manchester would be the right thing for me. Question number 7. Favourite part of your house? Favourite part of this new house? Oh my god. I love loads of bits about this house, to be honest. As I said, there's some bits I don't like. I don't like the kitchen and everything, but one of the really cool things about this house is that it has this like secret room off the living room, which the estate agents called a study, but it's got no windows in it, so I'm not sure I'd like to sit in there and use it. But it's so good for putting all my stuff in. I have a lot of photography equipment, tripods, lights, and I also have loads of craft stuff. And so I used to have an Etsy shop, and I still have all the stuff from my Etsy shop, and so this room is just really good. It's all in there, and you just shut the door. But I can also access it every day if I need to, whereas obviously if you put stuff up in the loft, you can't get up there to get things. So question number 8, next project for the house. So as I said, I'm working on a spare room makeover at the moment, which is mostly just aesthetic stuff. So as in, I'm not actually painting any walls, and I just want to give it a little bit longer and make sure that maybe I'm going to stay for another year before I start painting walls. So for the moment, I'm trying to do things through cool furnishings and cushions and that kind of thing. So the next project is going to be the bathroom. So the bathroom, I think there's some little things that can be done to just make it quite cool, and they're all things that can either be removed when I leave, or they're quite budget things. And so I this week sent an email to my estate agent to ask permission from the landlord and landlady for some of these ideas. So once I get the go-ahead, yeah, the bathroom is going to be my next project. Question number 9, plans for spring. So at the moment I don't have any plans, specific plans, and at the moment there is obviously the coronavirus pandemic, and I think that's putting a lot of people off making plans. So later, question number 12, are you planning a holiday this year? At the moment, no. So that kind of affects my spring plans. I don't plan to travel anywhere abroad. Me and my parents were going to be going to Iceland. It was on my bucket list, and we were going to go in March, April, and we've shelved that for now. We've decided now is not the time to try and do our dream trip, and we're just going to hold off. Me and Emma have got some plans that hopefully this virus won't affect. Nothing abroad, but we've got some videos planned together and some places that we want to go together, so hopefully we'll do them. And yeah, that's it really. I know that's like really not exciting at all, but just keep going with everything that I've got going on. Number 10, favourite podcasts. I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time. I have a little Bluetooth speaker, and when I'm doing the dishes or whatever, I always put on a podcast. So originally my favourite podcasts were murder podcasts. I love programmes and documentaries about murder, and so I love murder podcasts as well. So my favourites are They Walk Among Us, I like Serial, I like, what's the other one? Case File. But I sent out some questions on Instagram asking people to recommend some funny podcasts, because I really wanted some things to like lift my mood and cheer me up. And loads of people recommended Shag, Married, Annoyed. And honestly, it's my favourite podcast. I've started from the beginning. I'm working my way slowly through all the episodes, and I love it. So one of the reasons I really like it is because Rosie and Chris Ramsey, who do the podcast, they are Geordie, and all my family are Geordie, and I love the Geordie accent. I find it so comforting. I find it a really funny accent, and that's one of the reasons I just really love hearing a Geordie accent in my house. So yeah, love that podcast. The other podcast I really like is called Off Menu with Ed Gamble and James Acaster. Now I love James Acaster, or Acaster. I think he is so funny. So this podcast is all about, they invite celebrities on and they chat to them about what their dream menu would be in a restaurant, and it's really funny. Especially the episode with Anthony Stewart Head from Buffy is a really good episode, and oh my god, the episode with Greg Davies is the best one. If you haven't listened to that podcast, definitely try that one. Question number 11, would I consider getting Gus a playmate? So again, if you followed my channel for a while, you'll know that I have a dog, Gus. I did have 2. I had little Eddie as well, and Eddie was sadly put to sleep last year in November, and so I just have Gus now. The answer is no. At the moment, no. because I obviously work for myself. My income is not guaranteed. I don't have as much money as when obviously I was with my ex and we were sharing the vet's bills and things. And so I don't think I could cope with 2 dogs in terms of vet's bills and flea treatment and all those things. So at the moment, no. But I am trying to get Gus to socialise with more dogs. He's going to a dog sitter occasionally who has other dogs. I also try and, go out. I obviously walk him every day, but I'm trying to go further into the park where there's more dog owners so he can interact with other dogs. So at the moment, no. I would love it, honestly. I love dogs so much. But I just think financially I can't afford it really. Question number 12 was, are you planning a holiday this year? Obviously I've already answered that. At the moment, no. Hopefully later in the year, Iceland, but I just think at the moment with everything it's best to just shelve any international plans. Question number 13. So if you could buy clothes from one brand or store and then one other brand for makeup and one brand for accessories, what brands or shop would you choose? I'm trying to think where most of my makeup's from. All my makeup's like such a mix of brands. Like I really like IT Cosmetics, but then I have other things that aren't IT Cosmetics. Yeah, I'd probably say IT Cosmetics for all of my makeup, I think. I think my favourite place for accessories is H&M. I love their jewellery, I love their bags. It's all quite affordable, it's quite a good place to pick up pretty much everything, belts, earrings, all sorts. So yeah, let's say H&M for accessories. Clothes. It's got to be ASOS, hasn't it? Because then, is that cheating? Because then they sell everything. That is a little bit cheating, isn't it? I think if I could only shop in one place, maybe New Look, that would probably suit my purse and my taste. I don't think I'd like to wear head to toe New Look every single day forever. But I reckon, to be fair, H&M, I think probably H&M clothes. I could probably shop for everything, beauty, clothes and accessories in H&M, quite happily. Question 14, favourite way to spend a lazy day at home? I find it really hard recently to be lazy, as in proper, relaxed and lazy, because I think with my job, it's so not 9 to 5 that you don't get home from work and you just then do whatever you want. I always feel like I'm on, switched on. So even at a weekend, I'm storying, I'm sharing what I'm cooking, and so you never 100% feel like you're switched off. And I think that's then led me to struggling to relax maybe a bit and struggling to let myself be properly lazy. But I do really love a lie-in, a proper lie-in. Then get up, make some tea and toast and possibly go back to bed and watch something in bed, probably Big Bang Theory in bed with some tea and toast. And get up and just like a really good pottery day, where you do a few bits, but then you sit down later in the afternoon with a cup of tea and you watch a film or something like Harry Potter under a blanket with a candle lit. Like literally, that's kind of the perfect day. Yeah. Question 15. What are some of the steps you're taking to build more self-love and learn to be happy on your own? This is such a good question because I think I'm somebody who does prefer to be with somebody. And I think, although I have had gaps where I haven't dated anybody, I've always sort of been in long-term relationships. I've written about 5 of my biggest relationships on my blog actually, which I'll link if you want to read it. So I think one of the biggest things is that I struggled to be okay on my own. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I work for myself as well. So I spend a lot of time on my own. I can spend my week on my own and then my weekends on my own. As I said, I'm feeling way more positive at the moment. I had my birthday recently, and as I said in my last video, I was feeling quite down about it, and I was really worried that it might slightly tip me over into being really down and really miserable. And actually I've come out the other side of it, and 1, I don't feel any different, because you're not really any different, are you? And 2, I actually feel quite happy and quite positive. I'm really lucky to have lovely family and amazing friends. The steps that I've tried to take are to try and remind myself of those things. A lot of people do a gratitude journal, and I did start doing one where you write down every day just 3 things that you're really grateful for, and it starts to make you realise how much you have positive in your life, I suppose. I think the other thing is about self-love is that there's nothing wrong with admitting that there's something you don't like about yourself. as long as you then try and do something about it. So for example, I lost a lot of weight through my divorce. And to begin with, I was quite happy about it. I quite liked the way I look. And then earlier this year, I lost loads more weight through anxiety, and I hated the way I looked. And so recently, I have been trying to increase my calorie intake. I've been drinking protein powders to boost my calorie intake. And I'm trying to put weight back on, and then I'm going to the gym to try and tone up that weight. So I think although I've accepted the fact that maybe I don't like my figure at the moment, I am trying to do something about it. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay to say, well, actually that thing I don't like about myself, but I'm going to do something positive to change it. Question 16 is slightly related to that. Best tips for getting out of the funk of feeling blue. The biggest thing I do is I talk to somebody. So I will send Emma a message and say, are you free to talk on the phone? The good thing about Emma is she works from home like me, so most days she is free to talk on the phone, whereas my other friends, they all have jobs and they're not necessarily free to talk in the day. Or I'll text my mum or ring my mum. That's the biggest thing for me, is talking to people. Some of the other things that I'm trying to do, which is quite ironic because at the moment, because of coronavirus, we're all being told to stay in the house. And I'm trying to do loads of things that get me out of the house because I spend too much time in the house. But I've booked myself onto a pottery course April to try and learn a new skill and also get out the house and meet people and have somewhere to go every week. And yeah, go to the gym, do classes. And if all else fails, I find one of the best things is to go and have a shower and put something really good on the telly that makes you laugh. Like literally, that can be one of the best things. So that's my tips. Question 17. How to make and keep girlfriends as an adult. Oh, this is so hard. It's a funny question, this actually, because in the last couple of years I've lost a couple of female friends, but I also have grown closer to some. Like me and Emma in the last couple of years have just become so much closer. I think I'm quite lucky because I think blogging has brought me friends. So a lot of my friends, newer friends in the last few years, have been through meeting through blogging or blog events. So Hannah, I met her through blogging. Emma, I met her through blogging. We met at London Fashion Week. Katie, my friend who lives quite nearby here, who I meet up with like every week or so, we met through blogging. So it has opened up my social circle and my social life, and it has brought me more females into my life to be friends with. But I like, for example, I was saying about the pottery course, you know, I would hope that maybe I would meet people on that course. So I think really it tends to come from activities. That's one of the best ways is to meet people, is to go to things. And that's the way that you're going to meet people. Question 18. Oh, so now we get into some of the, you know, more deeper questions. These questions are about dating. What is your favourite thing about dating? Well, okay, I'm not dating at the moment, as I said, but on the whole, I have enjoyed dating. I love that first date feeling when you're on a first date and you're just getting on so well and you think to yourself, God, I want to kiss them, like, or I hope they kiss me. And that's a really exciting feeling. And I've been on some really great first dates and I've had that feeling, and you know, obviously things haven't worked out for me with people, but I do enjoy that expectation of, oh my God, what if we get on really well? But then that also, I'm going to write a blog post about this, that also leads to stress. I find that bit stressful. Not the dates, I love the dates. It's the bits in between when you're waiting for the messages. Are they going to message? How long should I wait? Oh, he's read my message and he hasn't replied. Oh, he's online. Oh, I've only got one tick. Oh my God. It is exhausting. Question 19. When you date someone new, do you find yourself comparing him to your ex? No, not really. I would say I compare the situation to my ex. Because when me and my ex met, we met through work at the theatre, and it was just quite easy. We knew we liked each other. He asked me out, we went on a date. Halfway through date 1, we said, oh, let's have date 2, and we messaged. We told each other we liked each other. There was no games. There was no, oh, I'm going to not reply for 5 hours. You know, and things just progressed really naturally. Whereas now things are so different. You know, now it's all a bit of a guessing game sometimes. And so I do compare that. I compare the situations, how different situations are than when I met my ex. But not people. I would say more what I do is compare people I date to people I've dated before them, if that makes sense. So like for example, last year, in the later part of last year, I went on some dates with this guy, and we had such a good early on connection on Tinder, and the chat was really good. It was backwards and forwards. We got on so well that we arranged to meet really quickly because we wanted to make sure that actually that there was something there. And we had 4 really amazing dates, and things didn't work out. And it's a longer story why things didn't work out because of his situation and whatnot. But then what happened is anybody who I matched with after that or went on dates with, I compared them to that. Why isn't the chat as good? Why isn't it as backwards and forwards? Why don't I feel those butterflies on date 1? So yeah, rather than comparing them like to my ex-husband, I compare them to other dates. Does that make sense? Question number 20. Whatever happened to the pub guy who chased you to the train? Okay, so this was a story that I told on my Instagram. You might not all know it. Back when I lived in the village, sorry, I keep calling it the village. Back when I lived in my old house, I finally found out that I could start looking for a rented property because the house sale had gone through and we were about to exchange, and now I was allowed to start looking for a rented house. And so me and my friend came over to the village on the train, and we went for drinks at the pub to celebrate. And at the pub, I got chatting to a guy, and we had a bit of banter all night. And then when I left to walk my friend to the train station, I'd said goodbye, and I'd kind of hoped that maybe, I don't know, he might ask my number or something, and he didn't. And we walked to the train station. I remember saying to my friend, oh, well, that was nice, bit of flirting or whatever. And then we heard this bum, 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 bum. And it was him running over the bridge across the train tracks in flip-flops, because it was warm. Chasing me, shouting wait, because he thought I was getting on the train to basically catch me before I left and get my phone number. And I told the story on my Instagram, and everybody was like, oh my god, it's like a romantic comedy. And it was like this really small thing, but it was actually really romantic, and it was lovely, it was great. And we ended up chatting a lot on message, on the phone quite a lot, and we'd arranged a date. It was about 2 weeks later, and he disappeared. He ghosted me. And I wrote about it on the blog. He reappeared 3 months later in my WhatsApp. They call it zombieing, when a ghost like reappears from like out of nowhere. And reappeared in my WhatsApp messages and apologised, explained a situation which I'm not going to go into. And so I've accepted his apology and agreed that we could be friends. The romance side had gone for me because he'd done what he'd done, but I agreed to be friends. So the answer is we still speak every so often, me and him. Occasional chats, but nothing else. That was a really long story, but yeah. Question 21. This is quite a personal question, but I totally don't mind answering it. So question 21 is, do you want children? Would you adopt? If you did adopt, what age and why? Yes, I would like children. I wrote about this on my blog in my birthday blog post. So I've never been that maternal, and I never really thought that I wanted children. And the whole time that me and my ex were together, we had talked about the fact that we were pretty sure we wanted children. He worked away a lot. I spent a lot of time on my own, and I didn't want to have a baby and be on my own. But I'd never been wholly convinced. And then Hannah, my friend, I'd never been wholly convinced. And then Hannah, she had little Atty. And not only is he the most beautiful boy ever, but also she does my job. And seeing somebody do my job as an Instagram influencer, you know, and have a baby and how that might work, made me more, I don't know, something clicked in me. And I started thinking, yeah, I do want kids, definitely want a baby. And unfortunately that was right around the time that my marriage was falling apart. And so I think that's one of the things that causes me quite a bit of anxiety about wanting to meet somebody and it happens soon, is because obviously I'm now single, I'm 39, and as you get older and older, the chances become less and less. So the answer is yes. The answer to adopting is no. And that is simply because I don't think that maternal instinct in me is strong enough. I have friends who've gone through the adoption process, and I know how hard it is, and I know how difficult it can be, and I think you have to really, really want it to put yourself through it. and so I don't think that my instinct is strong enough for that. Okay, question number 22. How to let go of sentimental things after a breakup. I don't think that you have to necessarily. I talked about this on my Instagram back when I was in the old place and I was starting to pack up things. I have a box, it's sealed, but I have a box and in there is stuff from my wedding. And it's not like I'm gonna look through it all the time or anything like that, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. So it's sealed up. I've kept my shoes and my headpiece and an invitation and a save the date, and they're all there in a box because, as my mum said, maybe in the future, if I did have children, they might want to look at that stuff. It's all part of your life. It's not, just because it's ended doesn't mean that you can just erase it. And so I've kept all of that. I think do whatever you want. You don't have to get rid of those things if you don't want to. But also don't keep them if all you're going to do is torture yourself by looking through them. That's a different thing. Question number 23. Biggest advice for sticking up for yourself in a relationship. You have to be honest in a relationship. You have to say how you feel about things and you have to broach things. I'm not somebody who just like brushes stuff under the carpet. I'd much rather be honest, even if that ends up in a massive blazing row, because you can always then clear the air, but at least you've been honest. So my biggest advice is, yeah, be honest about how you feel, and just, you're in that relationship too, so just stand up for yourself, yeah. Question number 24. Any advice for helping a friend through a divorce? Divorces are so hard, and I'm really lucky that actually mine, in reality, was quite easy. I know other people who it's dragged on and on, especially if you're going through solicitors and the two of you can't talk apart from with solicitors. We actually did a lot of it without a solicitor. The biggest thing is they want to be able to talk about it. I felt like I got to a point where people didn't want to hear about it anymore, and it was all I was talking about. But the problem is, and this is the bit I don't think people get. So when you've lived with somebody for 10 years, or you've been with somebody for 10 years, and you've always had that person to talk to, oh my God, I don't want to get upset now. Do I feel like I'm getting upset? No. And you've had that person to talk to. The weirdest thing then is to go through this breakup and then this legal procedure of divorce. And the one person who you want to talk to, who in the past would have been the person to help advise you how to get through situations, you know, your partner, is the one person you can't talk to about it. So you're left with nobody. Obviously you've got your parents and things like that, but you're missing the person who used to help you through things like this. And that's the biggest thing, that you're trying to navigate something that is upsetting. You're trying to put monetary values on a life that you spent together. And it's heartbreaking, and I don't think anybody who's never gone through it knows how hard it is. Yeah, I am getting a bit upset. Yeah, because it's so hard. So the best thing I could say is just be there to listen. I don't think you need to badmouth the person. I never found that useful when people badmouth them, although I did enjoy when Emma used to call him a knobhead. That always entertained me. The biggest thing is just let them talk about it. Don't ever make them feel like they're going on about it too much, because for them, when they wake up in the morning, this is how I felt, it's all that's on your mind. It's all consuming, it's all you can think about. Your life is just dominated by solicitors and divorce decisions and filling in forms, and that's ignoring the fact that you've had this breakup and your heart's broken. Just be there. Love this question. Question number 25. Do you ever wonder if your ex and his new partner watch your videos? No, I don't really care. For me, my way to deal with things when we broke up was, and when I then found out about her, was to block everything. Because out of sight, out of mind. I'd rather just not know what they're up to. I never wanted to make this like a slanging match like a lot of people do on Facebook and things, so I never did any of that. And whenever I've written about it or made videos, I've always been very careful to talk about it from my point of view, how I feel about things. I've never badmouthed him, so I don't worry about them watching my stuff or reading my stuff, because I don't feel like I'm saying anything that's bad. Number 26, how did you make photography a career? So it was kind of like accidental, really. Photography is only part of how I earn my living. Obviously I earn my living through YouTube and Instagram, but some of it is through freelance photography. And it started because I bought myself a big DSLR camera. My first one I ever bought was a Nikon. Shh, don't tell Olympus. And I just started teaching myself. I just started taking pictures. I really enjoyed it. And then I started doing the blog, and I was taking pictures on that big camera again. And then a few years later I got the Olympus pen. I bought my first one. Emma liked the pictures that I took of her, so when I left my full-time job she employed me as her photographer, and I used to work with her before Simon did. And I just sort of taught myself really, and then Olympus caught on to what I was writing about their cameras and what I was doing, and they took me on as an Olympus creator. And I started shooting content for them for their Instagram feed and creating tutorials for them. And then, yeah, brands started to ask me to shoot their products for them because they liked the way I shot photos. So I've shot photos for Next Beauty on their Instagram. And yeah, it's a bit trial and error really, but I did find that I just had a natural knack for it. Question 27, what camera do you advise someone who wants to improve their photography skills? Obviously I'm a bit biased, I'm going to say the Olympus pen, because I just think they're great cameras. I think they're really good for this modern generation of social media photography, the way you can Wi-Fi your pictures to your phone straight away, the way that you can use all the Olympus lenses on a camera that is so small. I just think they're brilliant. But as I said, I started off by buying it was the basic Nikon entry-level DSLR, and it had some really good beginner options on it. And look for something secondhand. You can pick up some really good, especially when people then upgrade from the entry-level camera and they want to go up to a better one. They sell their entry-level camera, and that's a really good way for you then to start off, and then later down the line you can. That's what I did. I sold my basic Nikon years ago because I went up to a better Nikon. Oh, this is a very serious question, this one. Question 28, if the UK is plunged into another recession, how do you think that will affect influencers? The thing is, with influencers and blogging and everything, I think you have to roll with the punches, and I think you have to evolve. So I think last year there was a big shift in fashion in terms of sustainable fashion, of being more eco-friendly with fashion and doing less hauls and things. And that's because people were becoming more aware of buying better. And what happened is you saw a big shift within the influencer industry of people so for example, I don't do as many hauls now, I certainly don't buy as much, and so my content has shifted to accommodate that change. But I think you just have to change and adapt with what's happening in the world. Question 29. If you could do something completely different with your life, what would you do? I know exactly what I would do. This kind of relates to if I won the lottery as well. I love dogs. Always have. I wanted a dog my entire life. I was so over the moon when I brought Eddie home. It was literally the best thing that's ever happened to me. And Gus as well. But obviously Eddie was my first ever dog. I would work somehow in rescue dogs. If I won the lottery, I would buy a huge big house and I would rescue as many dogs as I could, and I would donate my time to rescue charities and things. But yeah, I would love to do something around helping rescue dogs. As much as I would find it hard, and I probably want to bring every kind of dog home, I would love to do something like that. Question 30. Best moment of 2020 so far. I actually think it's something that I thought wasn't going to be my best moment, and that was around my birthday. I really thought my birthday was going to be really hard. And I took those pictures which you saw me taking in the last video, and I had such a positive response on Instagram, and it was just lovely. And my day, well, in fact my whole birthday week, apart from my parents not being able to come, which is such a shame, I just had a really good positive week. So yeah, I think maybe my best moment was my birthday, which if you'd asked me a while ago I would not have guessed that that would have been the case. Last question, what are your hopes for the future? So I would love to do a few things in the future. One of them is a podcast. I'm really thinking seriously about doing a Starting Again podcast. After being on the radio earlier this year, it's something that a few people on Instagram suggested that they would really enjoy and they would listen to. So that's kind of in the offing, and that's something I really want to make sure that I give myself a kick up the arse and actually get done. Of course I hope for love. I don't think that's a bad thing to say that that's something that you want in your life. I think everybody wants love in their life. it's a hope for me. I just feel like at the moment it's not a desperate necessity now. You know, I feel a lot happier in the sense of just being okay at the moment on my own. But I would like to be with somebody again. And yeah, I hope that I can continue to be happy and contented and healthy and keep doing what I'm doing. So that's about it really. So I hope you enjoyed today's Q&A video. If you've got any more questions, then do just ask me in the comments and I will try my best to answer them. Or maybe if there's lots of them, I will do another Q&A video in the future. But give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and do subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and I will see you again next time. Bye.